Live now. Hello. Welcome back to MechaCon. I am Victor Dandridge, the hardest working man in comics. It is my pleasure to bring to you this panel, Gangsta Rap Made Me Do It, Artivism in Comics. And I've got some of the coolest cats around joining me on this one. This is absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to jump into and chop it up. Let's introduce ourselves, and we'll start with Bizhan, if you don't mind.
Hi, my name is Bizhan Khodabandeh. I'm a university professor and a comic artist, graphic designer, and illustrator.
Excellent. Next, we have D-Nick.
Peace and blessings. I'm D-Nick, the Microphone Misfits, from the Microphone Misfits crew. I'm a musician and comic book writer and curator of co-curator of PocketCon.
Excellent. Ezra.
My name is Ezra Daniels. I'm a comic book writer and illustrator. I did a book called Upgrade Soul and more recently a book called Bottom Feeders.
Love it. Whit?
Hi, I'm Whit Taylor. I'm a cartoonist and I'm an editor. I'm currently a contributing editor at the Nib, and I'm also a new mom. So.
Oh, congratulations. Absolutely, congrats. Okay, so obviously a conversation here has a different meaning in 2020. Ordinarily, we could just talk about, activism in the general sense, but this has been a heavy year. But I kind of want to, start in with something a little bit more lighthearted. So if you could, musically minded folks that you are, what song represents your perspective for 2020 right now? I know, right? That's a big one.
First thing that comes to my mind is "Calm Like a Bomb," but I don't know.
Right? 100%.
Man,
D-Nick is like, I got to go through the library right now to figure out.
Yeah.
I keep going back to Public Enemy. Like, Public Enemies have been putting out some new stuff recently that's like really relevant. Like, I always looked at Chuck D. Like, through the ages, he's just like consistently been such a voice of reason for me, like ever since I was a kid and first got into Public Enemy. But recently, hey, what's up, Tony?
Hey, Tony's here.
But I've been going through this like little nostalgia phase, like I'm sure a lot of you guys are. And I grew up in Iowa, and in Iowa in the 90s, like the thing that the white side of my family was really into was like 90s country western, like pop country stuff, like Bonnie Raitt. So I was like listening to some Bonnie Raitt the other day. And that song, Something to Talk About, is just
that song is fire.
I feel like that's my like anthem right now. The music video too for it is just like I'm just like Bonnie Raitt, Something to Talk About. That's the anthem of 2020 for me.
I love it.
I've been in the lab, so I don't really listen when I'm creating because I don't want stuff to seep in. But the last thing that really hit me was Run the Jewels. All these slave masters on your dollar. Like that one kind of really hit me home.
Well said. Whit?
I was thinking Public Enemy too, but also I've been listening to Rage Against the Machine again lately. I don't know. That's just
I understand. No, I totally understand. Tony, if you want to give us a quick intro for yourself. Oh, come on. And you're muted, by the way. There we go.
Because I didn't want the feedback. I'm Tony Puryear. Nice to see all of you. Nice to be here. And hey, Victor, particularly good to see you. Long time.
Oh, so the question at hand is, if you could distill 2020 down into a song, what song would it be?
We just had an earthquake here last night.
I know.
And it was like a whole lot of shit going on. I don't know. I can't distill it down to a single song. I have no idea. Sorry.
I respect that. No, it's a whole playlist.
Who has nothing to say, but I'm trying. I'm sincere, but I have nothing. I have nothing else.
That's so real. As creatives, you all speak to what's going on in the world, trying to utilize your voice or platform to, add your piece to the conversation. Saying something, though, isn't the same as having something to say. So how do you craft an authentic message through your art, through concept building, process, and application? And D-Nick, I want to start with you if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I mean, by name alone, I don't fit in anywhere except on stage. So I try to look at what everybody else is missing and what people are not doing, so and not checking, and what's not really kind of cool and trendy to say, the more dangerous thing, because pressure either makes diamonds or busts pipes. So I look at a lot of things, and really try to find the lessons in a lot of negativity, as well as the humor. Me personally, I feel like signifying is one of my favorite things about Black culture. And I feel like our ability to swallow spit and talk ish has kept our people emotionally strong since we've been over here for generations. If you're coming from slaves, if you're part of that lineage. So trying to find the humor in the absurdity, and trying to, really find the points that people are missing, and so it's more a detective work, and that keeps it fun for me as a creator and a writer. You're muted, Vic.
Wait.
Oh yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you. So for me, I don't know. I like to write about issues that are important to me. Things that I feel like either there's a lot of misconceptions about that need to be broken down so that people can understand them, or things that, from my own history, that resonate with me. Recently, I've been doing a lot of stuff on public health, because I feel like, especially given the whole situation we're in with COVID, that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and in general there's just like this disregard for science and respecting science out there. So I've been trying to do pieces on that, on public health. I did one on maternal mortality in Black women, and how it's a real issue in the Black community with women dying at a higher rate in childbirth. So I did a comic on that recently. I've done a comic, for instance, on public health history, like the Tuskegee syphilis study, or looking at how things like the FDA were founded in our country, things so that people have a foundational knowledge. It's so easy nowadays to just get the wrong information. So if I can use comics as a medium to break those concepts down, and also like talk about the things that are important to me from a social justice perspective, like that's what I'm going to do.
Well said. Very well said. Bizhan?
So, similar to other folks, it's like definitely things that you're passionate about or that's relevant. But I feel like I tend to, before trying to say something, I have a lot of smart friends and a lot of people that are activists and community organizers and union leaders. And I listen to what they say and kind of meditate on that before I say something in certain cases. But, as far as some of the work I've done, some of it directly applies to me. Like I was raised by, far leftist folks, and have that Persian background. So one of the first comics I did was a comic adaptation of a story written by a member of a guerrilla group that helped overthrow the Shah, from the leftist side, not the Muslim side of things. And then the most recent one that I did is essentially like an Orwellian retelling of the Iranian Revolution. So it's, fish and birds and animals representing some of the political leaders and factions of the time. And of course, it doesn't end well like Animal Farm, but it's telling that story, and so those things, that move me, that especially history, I guess, would be something that I'm particularly fascinated in.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Tony?
Man, I like what D. Nick said about talking shit, and that tradition. My job, I get up every day and I have to fight Trump, and I do it every day. Sometimes I'm too quick on the draw. Sometimes I've gotten my facts wrong, but I see it as my job to come out every day and say something, talk some shit, be vicious, be inappropriate, because I think we're in a crisis. I think we're in danger. I think it's partly the artist's job to like go, what the fuck, and to make that statement. I wish more of us were trying to, like, you go to a zoo sometimes and you see the monkeys throwing shit at the paying customers through the bars of it. And I feel that way sometimes. I feel like it's my job to throw some shit. and to do it in as funny a way as I can, because it makes people, think, and it catches their imagination. But I got to do it every day, and I think I see that as my job. So sometimes I don't get the facts right. This is like I do. It's a kind of journalism almost. It's the first draft of history. It's not history. It's not a considered approach. It's I got to do a little of this. So that's my job.
I love it. I love it. Ezra.
Man, you guys just took my answers one after the other. I'm like reeling to come up with a new answer. But I think for me, it's like the first thing is like to have a really good understanding of what I'm trying to say before I start trying to say it. And like Tony is saying too, like if you have the time to back it up with some research, and like Bizhan was saying, like back it up with talking to friends who are smarter than you, which I have a lot of friends who are smarter than me. But I feel like, but the big thing for me too is just like and I've been thinking about this just over the past couple of days, is just like to be able to admit when you're wrong and to learn from your mistakes. I feel like that's huge. And like even doing work that you put out into the world that like, if it didn't quite hit the way you wanted it to, then be able to back off from it or redo it so it like you can make it say something you want to do. But I feel like if people, well, I feel like it's like such a powerful thing to be able to admit when you're wrong. And it's just like one of those things that's like almost like up there with the golden rule, where like if everybody could just admit when they were wrong, like
no, very well said. Very well said. I gotta like kind of keep on this one. When it comes to the responsibility of your message and making sure that it comes across, I mean, as we all have supported Black Lives Matter, but it's probably the most misquoted term, I think, of our age. Is it really our responsibility as advocators or communicators to make sure that people understand what your intent is? How do you manage that if it seems to go awry? And Whit, I want to start with you.
So you're asking, is it our responsibility to? Can you repeat it?
Sure. Is it our responsibility to make sure that what we say can't be diluted or changed or flipped around by anybody else?
Gotcha. I think like the best we can do on our end is to try to be clear with our message. It's unfortunately sometimes things take on a life of their own on the internet, and that's like a whole nother issue. But I think our responsibility is to be clear, to connect with the right people, to be regular and consistent in our communication. That's what I try to do as an artist. I try to stand up for the things that are important to me, and to try to build a community, especially in comics, with the people who I feel share those values. And that's really the most that I feel like I can do. Well
said. Very well said. Bizhan?
Well, yeah, like I'd like to echo that. It's like sometimes, you can only have but so much control. I mean, they had the I don't know if any of y'all seen that documentary, Feels Good Man, that just came out about Pepe the Frog. And it's like, not even like politically loaded whatsoever. Right. And then it gets turned into that. So it's like, what do you do in that situation? I had a situation where, I'm in Richmond and we have, they've been spray painting our monuments, and activists have been like knocking some down because we're in the former capital of the Confederacy. And we have all these, racist effigies. And like I made a illustration of one, and I ended up selling it and donating it to some transparency and accountability groups combating police brutality. But like my wife told me that she saw like the image saved and being used by like some of the more like right-leaning like pro-Confederate folks, and I was like, but it's just an illustration of the monument like covered in graffiti. Like you wouldn't think that they'd be like, yeah, this is what I want to use, but they did. Like it's like, so like I don't know how you combat that situation.
Yeah, another thing is like how are you going to spend the energy and time that you have? Like there's always going to be people that troll you too, because there's something about what you said bothers them. I did a comic like years ago called "What Is Race?" and it was breaking down like all the pseudoscientific racial theories that have been floating around forever, and like why they're wrong, and like what we know about the science, and like how all the pseudoscience is wrong pretty much. And I had a bunch of racist trolls like getting on me for that. And I just decided to ignore it. Like, that's just not what I want to spend my time doing, is responding to those people. My goal is to educate people, to give information, and that comic is now used in schools. So like that, I feel like I've succeeded in that respect, but I'm not going to waste my time with these people who are actually trying to just piss me off and exhaust me. So
that is so real. So real. D Nick, what about you, sir?
I mean, I think that's our responsibility. Like, it's part of the journey as artists. We have to. That's part of the fight. It's context, nuance, data and compassion. Because as creators, we fight for the context of our piece. Like, I'm old enough to remember. I remember, like, we take something like Sir Mix-a-Lot's "Baby Got Back." I watched that song go from a Black woman anthem where they were like, yeah, it's a brother defending us against, the skinny supermodels and celebrating the Black woman's body and shape. Yes. Then I seen that song elevate to, you are objectifying women to just a butt. Like, stop doing that. Now that song is the white girl karaoke anthem. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just being 100. So now, as creators, that's our mission and our goal. We have to protect our context. We have to protect it, and we have to, and it's a ever growing fight as things evolve, as history grows, and we have to do that, because just like lies are weaponized, the truth can be weaponized too. Mm-hmm. Like, I know a lot of good brothers and sisters who are anti taking down like Confederate statues, not because they're supporters of General Lee and no stuff like that, but because their stance is, we don't have no Black museum to like cultivate and hold our history, and that's a part of our history because that's our rights claim. Now, if they say, wait, don't tear it down until we get a museum, all you hear, if you ain't getting control of the context, is don't tear it down. And that gets lumped in with the people that are like pro General Lee, and that's not fair to them, but they have a responsibility to be like, oh no, we not with them over there. We're saying we want a museum to place this like racist paraphernalia in, so we can have our history told and cultivated and protect our rights claim. We ain't saying celebrate it. You know what I'm saying? So it's part of the journey to me.
I love that. Ezra.
Man, this is my favorite question. I have like a lot of things to say about this. But I feel like, personally, I feel like it is our duty to be clear in our messaging, because it's too easy, like you guys are saying, for people to take the wrong message. And I think part of that is understanding really clearly in your own mind what that message is. I think, like in comics specifically, and if anybody's been on a panel with me, I've said this before because I say this on every panel I'm on, but people always love to point to the X-Men as like the great example of like comics historically being used for social good. But the X-Men is like a great example of like oppression cosplay, right? Where it's like, it's this example of like what does it feel like when the shoe's on the other foot? White people, like, how do white people like being oppressed? So like the X-Men is this group of mutants who are all white, and they're all being oppressed, and it's supposed to be this allegory for the civil rights movement. But the message that a lot of people are able to take from that and other oppression cosplay stories like Hunger Games or Elysium or something like that is that the white people are the ones being oppressed, and white people love that shit. And if you're not clear in your message, then it's way too easy for people to walk away from that with that message. And I feel like in the case of Hunger Games and stuff like that, I don't really think that Susan Collins, I mean, she's had a lot of stuff to say, but she probably didn't think about it that far ahead. Like, she wasn't thinking about the lessons that white people are going to take from this story. So I feel like we do have a responsibility, but I also feel like, I don't know, I love to couch the things that I do in like these like layers of genre, like sci-fi and horror stuff, because that's the stuff I like. I just like living in those worlds, and it's fun for me to work in those spaces. So for me to make sure the message comes across clearly is like Bottom Feeders is like this horror story with like all this body horror stuff going on, and it's all symbolic and it's all metaphorical, and it's super easy to take the wrong message from that. But what I did was I had 2 scenes in that book that were just like frank conversations between 2 characters where they're just like laying it all out. So like you can read the whole book and like totally miss all the metaphors, but there's those 2 conversations in there that are like the key, like the secret key that will just like make sure you at least understand where these characters are coming from, and hopefully where I'm coming from.
Well said. Well said. Tony.
You know, that's interesting what Ezra just said about trying to have your cake and eat it too, having this little caveat or thing that says, don't misinterpret what I just did. I'm not trying to reduce what you just said as that formula either. But it's so funny. I started making my GANGSTAs series about the Trump administration 4 years ago. When this fucker got elected, I started going after him. I knew him from New York. He was a criminal then, he's a criminal now. The people around him are criminals, they're gangsters. That was easy to do. They're funny, like the Sopranos, like the gang that couldn't shoot straight. But as time went on and their shit got more sinister and what they're doing to the country became more entrenched, more real, what they evoked in the country, the racism, the Nazis, you know, my work had to start getting more extreme too. And then you get into this funny area. Lately, I've been using swastikas in my art. Just the other day, they had this revelation that women in these ICE camps had been subjected to forced sterilization. That is some shit out of Dr. Mengele and the 1940s. And so I just did an image of a shattered uterus with a swastika behind it. And that was it. That was the image. And it didn't come with an explanation. By the way, I don't endorse the use of the swastika as a Nazi symbol. Rather, I'm trying to, I don't get to do that. My stuff has to be consumed like that too. So, but it's funny. I've put more swastikas in my work lately, and it gives me pause too, obviously. Like if you were asking a bunch of design students, what's the best logo ever? And I don't mean best like noble or good.
Right.
Most effective logo, right? Nike's up there, whatever, Coca-Cola. Swastika, best logo ever in terms of just communicating the sinisterness of the Nazi regime. And yet I use it now in my art. So I don't know, it gives me pause, but at the same time, I think these times demand screaming that sterilizing women is Nazi shit. And
of course.
We have to say it like that.
So, I mean, just to piggyback on that, Tony, how do you handle the criticism of work when it's supposed to be something that's a progressive commentary? How do you, really address that if somebody gives you that pushback?
I don't. I just have to keep making more. I have to keep, and over time, I hope my message will be clear. I think there will always be people who misinterpret your shit. I remember getting to see Picasso's Guernica, this painting of outrage, and it's a cry against the fascists bombing a Spanish town. And it's 27 feet long, and you can stand in front of it. And I've seen people go, oh my, it's so beautiful. And it is beautiful. I mean, it's got a terrible beauty to it. But Picasso doesn't put a warning label on it. Picasso doesn't tell you how to think about it. He just trusts that he did the best job he could as an artist, making a painting of outrage. So I got to think, every day I got to do my job, and if sometimes I miss the mark, or sometimes trolls come in, as Whit said, fuck them. I'm working for history, even though it's, as I say, it's the first draft. So let them misinterpret it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to still stay on my message, and I'll do it tomorrow and tomorrow.
I love that. I love that. Bizhan, as a professor, do you echo the same sort of conversation points to your students?
So yeah, I talk a little bit about semiotics in one of my courses, and we talk a little bit about the swastika and about, the various manifestations of what it means to different nationalities and groups. And, we have a conversation about how, there's this Zen Buddhist utilization of the swastika, and how outside the context, many Westerners, when they go to Japan, they see the Zen Buddhist swastika, they just assume it's a Nazi Germany thing and don't understand the context and misinterpret it. And there's this dissonance. So I don't know if, maybe I'm meandering a little bit because I'm like flashing back to that lecture that I haven't done yet. But yeah, we talk a little bit about that and about the cognitive dissonance of culture, because it's not just about those symbols. Like internationally, when your book's being translated internationally, it's very different. Like the same reason why Blade of the Immortal has, he has a swastika on his back, and that had to be scrubbed for German and American audiences when they released that manga in the United States.
Yeah, the Germans won't stand it. They will not have a swastika, period.
No, not at all. Not at all. Whit, as a new mom, obviously the idea of future interpretations kind of being, at all affected by art. What do you think in terms of that criticism factor?
That's a good question. I mean, to be honest, like I'm in like survival mode right now as a new parent. So it's something that I'm just like, change the diaper, feed, all of that. I'm very tired, but it's hard. It's impossible right now not to have the future in mind, and to wonder what world you're bringing a child into right now, and how they're going to look upon history and how you're going to explain all of this to them. I remember making a comment about that on Twitter a while ago, and Keith and I was like, I wonder what my son is going to, how I'm going to explain like this police brutality and all this stuff to my son. And he's like, how do I explain to my children who are in their teens right now? It's like, it's a conversation that like never ends. And I'm not sure if I'm answering your question really right now. But, it's particularly heavy this year. And there's no way like I could have known last year when I was pregnant that this was the year that all this stuff was going to explode. But I think it's interesting how we see a lot of this talk about the 2020 is doing all this stuff to us. It's not 2020. This has been going on for years. This is a result of a variety of things at play. And I think that sometimes for the human mind, it's easier to encapsulate it in a year, to give it meaning, and to be able to maybe have an escape from it, when this is going to continue unless we don't continue to fight and act against it. So maybe that sounds negative, but I do get tired when I see that whole 2020 is being so awful to us, because we've been saying that for every year. Like 2019 was awful, like 2018, like
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's so real. D-Nick, what can you add to
that? Well, on the art thing, I have a personal philosophy of art has the right to offend you, and you have the right to be offended. And it's really just simple as that, man. I have the right to offend you, and you have the right to be offended. And that goes to anything in the creative space. That's my personal philosophy. As far as like all the other things that we hit, man, there's a really there's a really entertaining racist by the name of Rahm Emanuel from Chicago, and Rahm Emanuel gave us one of the best quotes, probably my favorite bigot of all the bigots. And he was like, and he said, "You never let a crisis go to waste." And I was like, "Thank you. That's how they think. That's how they think. Thank you. That was a jewel for there. If I can't believe in nothing else, I can always believe in the arrogance of racism." So thank you for that jewel, and I'll take that. So when they're thinking that way, we have to think that way. If they're utilizing that and that thing where it's like, okay, we're in a pandemic, people are sick, how can we, squeeze some more out of it? That's what they thinking. So we have to counter that and understand that that's how it moves in a capitalist society. You know what I'm saying? In an oppressive capitalist society. And I do that I try to take emotion out of it as best I can, you know what I'm saying, and just look at it logically,
Absolutely. Ezra?
Yeah, the stuff that D-Nick was just saying was like really hitting home for me. I've been thinking about that a lot. Just like I think a lot about the declining value of facts and how easily people are convinced of these wild conspiracies that in most cases uphold their own white supremacist beliefs and justify them in weird ways. I had this friend on Instagram who, after George Floyd got killed, she was posting some stuff about how George Floyd was a clone planted by some agency to incite a race war. What's up, Crown?
You don't want to play with us now.
And she said, "Race war, I'm out." You guys are already talking about race war. But if you think about why a conspiracy like that would catch on amongst white people, it's like if George Floyd was a clone who was planted by a nefarious agency, then we don't have to feel bad that he was killed because he wasn't even a real human being. And there's there's an emotional backdrop to almost every one of those conspiracies that comes through. That's like, it's just justifying white supremacy, right? And I feel like the thing that I'm disappointed about as a creator in this space is that like the world's best and most intelligent and thoughtful and empathetic storytellers are all on our side. So like, why aren't we using these abilities to control the narrative in the same way that QAnon is controlling the narrative, just by throwing shit at the wall? Like they're just throwing shit at the wall and they're moving mountains. And we're just like, that's why I feel I'm rambling a little bit now, but I frequently struggle with disenchantment over the work I'm doing. Like I'm sitting in my bedroom making these indie comics on Fantagraphics and it's super cool. I'm on Fantagraphics, but like, who am I even reaching? Right. So thinking about like how to use my skill set to affect people in the same way that QAnon and shit like that is affecting people by using those same tactics, like D-Nick was saying, like the tactics are all laid out. These aren't new tactics. And these people aren't even intelligently using these tactics. Like we have the intelligence, the education, and the skill sets to like manifest great global changes. But I feel like, me personally, I feel like it's so easy to get stuck in this silo of just like, I just want to make these sci-fi stories and hang out with my friends. I just want to go to SPX and just like, and have this comfort of like having all my buddies around, when like, I feel like we all need to be, well, me specifically, I feel like I need to be able to put myself in more uncomfortable situations and just like try to communicate my ideals to people that I'm not typically associating with.
Of course, of course. Before I get to one of my last questions, I am going to bring the queen back on so that she can speak and say hello. Hello, Miss Crown. What's happening?
Oh, what up, though?
We just gave you some love. Thank you for bringing us all together. This has already been an amazing conversation point, and I think we all owe you a debt of thanks for bringing us all together on this one. So if you guys don't mind, can we get a little hand clap praise for the queen? There it is. There it is. Of course, of course, of course.
I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all, period. Just agreeing to do this event as a whole, period. Agreeing to go on what panel I throw y'all on, agreeing to promote it, agreeing to support me, just all across the board. Tony Puryear looking so enthusiastic this entire time. I can't even stand it. I fuck with y'all. Thank y'all so much, sincerely, though, for real.
Absolutely,
like I
absolutely.
really do appreciate this, and I absolutely love this panel because I personally am an artivist. So this honestly was one of the more important panels of the day for me. So thank y'all so much. I really do, because I always appreciate people of our culture that are doing shit for more than just the surface value. You know, when you're making creations and it's to cultivate our people and progress our people and to show the anger of our people and the disdain of our people and the happiness of our fucking people, you know, I'm all for that first and foremost. So thank y'all so much. I really appreciate it. I wasn't trying to interrupt y'all panel, though. I'm just sneaking in, showing everybody.
No, we just listen. We just trying to give you love. That's all. All right, I'll let you back to the backstage. I'll put you back to the backstage now. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Love though. All right, so this is a big one. Permissions. For those who aren't sure they have something to say or question their authority to speak their hearts and minds, what advice do you have for them? Tony, I'm gonna save you for last because I know you like just do it. So I'm gonna save you for last. If you don't mind starting off with that one as a professor.
All right, I had to unmute myself. So, I mean, as a professor, I'd say research. You know, like one of the reasons that I got into activism is, you know, I started my second go at college. I was originally studying to be an engineer, and then I didn't want to be a human calculator and decided to start studying graphic design. But that was the year that September 11th happened. I saw like a lot of the racism, you know, directed at people like me who are Middle Eastern, and I saw Al Jazeera leak photos of the bombings, and that's what really threw me in. But, you know, make a long story short, I started being really vocal, and people were like shutting me down because I was also incredibly ignorant. I wasn't reading political theory. Didn't know a lot about history, and I felt inept at speaking out and saying things. And so I spent, you know, and still spent the rest of my time educating myself about history, about different historical contexts for revolution, mostly leftist politics, so about the Black Panther movement and civil rights and all these things, and just kept reading and reading and reading as much as I could because I didn't want to be caught unawares, I guess. And I think that's the best thing you could do is read your history, read your philosophy, read your sociology, and really just self-educate so that you aren't feeling that way, and that you are actually educated in what you're talking about.
Well said. D. Nick.
Can you rephrase the question for me, please?
Sure. In terms of, those people that don't feel like they are allowed to speak their hearts and minds about these types of things, or don't necessarily feel like they have something to say, what advice can you give them to kind of encourage them to do that?
Well, one, I will let them know that there's no such thing as apolitical art. It doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care what kind of like comic, record, anything. It's all political. You know what I'm saying? Like Superman debuted, like, smacking up Hitler. It's all political, G. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, and then just understand what you can do and what you can't do, and put everything in context. You know what I'm saying? And knowing what is the ultimate goal of what you can do and what your mission is. Like for me, I never thought I would be teaching in a college. I never thought that I would wrap my way into a career in comics and teaching hip hop at a college. And I realized that art gives us one thing that others like spend money to go to. Like we go to college for social capital more than anything, even more than a degree, because you're already great. You don't need nobody to teach you to be great. So you go there for social capital. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you build your business. You know what I'm saying? You go there for social capital. Bill Gates's roommate went there to be roommates with Bill Gates. You know what I'm saying? You look at Hillary Clinton's graduating class, all of them fools was like became governors and senators, and even one brother became the president, and that was her husband. You know what I'm saying? So you go to these, the law is the law. So why is one law degree worth more than another law degree when it's the law is the law? And it's the same everywhere other than your state difference. And you learn all universal laws in the US. It's because you go there for social capital. So for artists and creators, they got to know their purpose and what fight you want to fight, man. You know what I'm saying? And eat the cost of that. You eat the cost of that. Sometimes you got to be a spy and you got to, play both sides for the greater good. But they might call you a coon or a sellout or something like that. They might call you an irresponsible white person for that. But you got to eat the cost of that. If you're going to be a rabble rouser, there's a price for rabble rousing. You know what I'm saying? Eat it. You know what I'm saying?
That's that good trouble.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So, just have the tenacity, have the nuts and the ovaries to fight the good fight, whichever fight you choose to fight.
I love that. Ezra.
Yeah, like off what D. Nick was saying about like how all art is political, I was like, you just made me realize like, and not even stuff that's like Superman. You use Superman as a reference. Like Superman is political in a way that you can understand if you like try to deconstruct it and figure out where these guys were coming from that came up with it. But you had me thinking about like June 10th and my friends on Instagram that were posting pictures of their puppies, and I'm like, you just showed your ass. Like people who are out here making stuff that's just complete like nonsense bullshit. It's just as political as the people that are doing stuff that's like holding truth and power, because they're showing their ass. They're showing what side they're on by their complicity. And I think that speaks volumes. So I feel like if someone's like considering the validity of using their voice in a public space, like I definitely understand that fear. And I understand that fear as like a white passing cis man. Like there's certain things that I feel uncomfortable doing because I'm afraid of like drawing the ire of trolls. Like, Whit, I know you've dealt with some shit, and like I don't deal with half the shit that you deal with just because of the way I look. So I understand that fear of people being like, I have something to say, but I don't feel comfortable saying it. But I think there's a lot of room for anonymity in this world, especially in art. Like I did a series of illustrations. It was like hashtag public service design in the wake of the discussions about defunding police, where I was doing these like uniform designs for different services that could be funded if the police were abolished, like mental health services, climate change services, and stuff like that. And it took off a little bit. And Avi at Silver Sprocket in San Francisco wanted to like poster these illustrations all over San Francisco in the Bay Area because he thought it would just be like this cool thing for people to see. And I think it'd be a cool thing for people to see too, but like the idea is what's important there, not my name. Like I don't want like, so I was just like, just don't put my name on it. Cause like, I don't want like some crazy conservative seeing like my Instagram handle on this thing and coming at me. And I'm going to have to like spend my whole day fighting these people when it's like, my name has nothing to do with the message if the message is clear enough. So I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's a cowardly move, but I feel like it's a way to like protect myself personally and still have the message get out there.
We also don't want people coming to you. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, no, same thing.
I was going to say, I've been in that same position because, you know, I had a background in street art and graffiti, and some of those kids are coming up to me and like, you know, I want to wheat paste your posters, like, but I don't want my name on it, like my actual legitimate name. I mean, for more reasons than just the trolling, but also it's like you're damaging property with my name on this thing. Like the police are going to come to me, not you.
That's so real. I want to offer an apology to Whit because I kept muting your mic because I think we were catching feedback on it, but I want to give you the opportunity to answer this one.
Sure. So I guess one thing I would say is, like, one of the biggest things that can get in your way is comparing yourself to other people. That can be a real big hindrance in terms of feeling like you don't have the right or ability to do something because you're maybe not as educated in something, you don't have as much experience, you know, like you don't need permission to do things. And also, like, I don't know, for a while I had a real complex about that. I like didn't have a background in art. I didn't go to art school. Like I was an educator and then I went into public health. I'd always been a comics fan and I was pretty much self-taught. But at a certain point, like I was like, this is a way for me to express myself. You don't have to start with like sharing everything with the world. Even if you keep a diary and you're drawing your comics just for yourself or a small group of friends, like that's a way to start and to get your feelings out, even if you don't feel like you're ready to share them with the world. But I would also say, like, what you do does matter. Like, even in times when I've thought like something I've made has had no impact, like I'll be at a show and then I have somebody come up and be like, this piece you did on mental health, or this piece you did on like being a Black girl, like I haven't seen a lot of that before and this really spoke to me. And you can make an impact on a micro level, even if it's just with like a handful of people. I think the internet, I think web comics are a great way right now of telling stories. It's very accessible. You can do it anonymously if you want. You can limit your audience. Zines as well. Like when you have the means of production, I feel like there's so much that you can do. Self-publishing, but yeah, I don't think you need necessarily permission to try those things out. And you don't have to be perfect from the beginning. You can learn to do comics and to share your voice through trial and error. So I don't know if I'm saying this, I'm being super articulate about it, but like, I think it's a process. Not everybody comes out perfect from the beginning or being able to express themselves the way they want to express. It takes time, but I think it's like a valuable practice, even if it's just for yourself.
Very well said. Very well said. Tony?
I agree with Whit. You don't need permission. I want to say that she's exactly right, that you don't have to be perfect first time out. You know, I'm probably, I know I'm the oldest person on this panel by a lot. I'm 63 years old. I lived a long time. And to Bizhan's point, my name has always been on my shit. And so far, you know, I've been in jail and everything, but not for posters or wheat paste or anything else. And you too, Ezra, put your name on the shit and own it. And that's cool. You know, I think some of the art I've done in my life has been creating mass actions. I helped to create this occupation of this nuclear power plant site. This is how I ended up in jail. But it was a piece of beauty as an art thing, as getting people from different ideologies and backgrounds and then to come together and occupy this nuclear power plant. I want to say to my young artists out there, there's more than just making images. Images are cool. The world is saturated with images. I saw today in the news, Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian reunited, and their attempt was to explode the internet. And I thought, that's what we're about. Like the power of those saturated images is all around us. So how then can we, as creative people, get off the page, get off the wall that we wheat pasted on, and be out in the world making something better. Because, you know, you look at Europe, you look at what's going on in Hong Kong, you look and you see these young people out in the streets creatively demonstrating, protesting, finding new ways. I'd like to tell people, especially young artists out there, you're not confined to the page. You're not confined to how well you can draw or how pretty your pictures are. You can also do something out in the street. You can also get 10 of your friends and make a huge difference in the world. Apply your creativity in other ways. So no, fuck permission. You have something interesting to say. Last thing I want to say to D-Nick, you know, the funniest thing, you said you got to eat it. It's funny. I got kicked out of college 5 times. And on the 5th time, I had 4 complete years of school, Brown University. And on the 5th time, they told me, don't come back. So I'm a high school graduate. I don't have a college degree after 4 years of college. And freaky deaky, you know, I ate it. I'm with you about that. You know, just be willing to. I think also, I want to say this one last thing. We don't even know where this world is heading. All our lives may be shorter. All our lives may be truncated. We don't know. We're not guaranteed tomorrow or anything else. So I would urge everybody to fight as hard as they can now, and not worry about whether your name's on the bottom or not. That's the least of your worries. Go do it. End of lecture.
Tony, where can we find you out in the world, social media wise, all that goodness?
You asking me?
Yes.
Facebook, because my name's on it. Tony Puryear, you know, and all that gangsta art, all that, you know, everything, the good and the bad. TonyPuryear.com. Also Facebook, yes.
Excellent, excellent. Whit, what about you?
You can find me on Twitter, Whit Taylor Comics, or my website, whittaylorcomics.com, or just Google me and you should find some of my comics floating around on the internet. And
cool.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. I think we all are newfound friends. Ezra?
I'm on all social media at Ezra C. Daniels. I'm most active on Instagram. My Facebook is probably going to be deleted. I'm one of those people. I'm just like, I got to delete it, but but I'm on there right now. But I'm at Ezra C. Daniels on everything.
On all social media, the Microphone Misfits, and you can just find everything on our website, themicrophonemisfits.com. That's THEMICROPHONEMISFITZ. The Microphone Misfits. Who else could it be?
Who else could it be?
Bizhan, I'm sorry, you have to follow that if you don't mind.
I'm okay. I'm used to being the boring professor. So, you can Google search my name, but also mended arrow, as in like fixing an arrow. And if you Google search that, you can find my Instagram, my web portfolio, and things like that.
I'm Victor Dandridge at Vantage In-House on all forms of social media, the hardest working man in comics, saying thank you to my illustrious panel here. You guys were fantastic. It was a joy to speak with all of you. And to everyone tuning in, much love to all of you. Again, shout out to Crown for bringing us all together. This is MechaCon 2020, y'all. Such a great time. Keep getting out there, keep activizing, creating things. Get out there, change the world. That's the way we're doing it. Love, peace to all of you.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you all. Nice meeting you all.
Pleasure.